Hello, and welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're digging into a fantastic guide that's all about demystifying forest management, especially for the thousands of people out there who own a small piece of California's wildlands. So if you've ever looked out at your trees and wondered, what can I possibly do to help them thrive? Well, this is for you.
Right, so you own a beautiful piece of the forest. Maybe it's 5 acres, maybe it's 100. It's a dream come true. But it also comes with this huge question. What now? How do you become a really good steward of that land? Let's break down exactly how you can do that, especially at a time when our forests are facing some pretty big challenges.
To figure out where we need to go, we first have to understand where we've been. And the difference is, wow, it's stark. Historically, California's forests were almost like these spacious parks. I want you to picture 50, maybe 80 big, old, fire-resistant pine trees per acre, with really clear understories. But today, a lot of those same areas are just choked with 3 to 10 times as many trees, and they're mostly smaller shade-loving firs and cedars. This isn't just a different look, it's a system that's fundamentally unhealthy.
And that really brings us to the heart of the problem we're all facing: California's overcrowded forests.
That number, 3 to 10 times denser, is pretty much the root of the crisis. Seriously, imagine trying to cram 10 people into a house that was built for one person. Resources get scarce, everybody gets stressed out. It is the exact same story for our trees.
And here's what happens. All those trees are just locked in this desperate fight for limited water and sunlight. This stress weakens them, and that makes them easy targets for drought, like that really devastating one we had from 2014 to 2016, and for insects like the bark beetle. It's just this vicious, self-perpetuating cycle of decline.
But this is where the story starts to shift. We go from the problem to the solution, because your land, your piece of the forest, has a massive role to play.
Yeah, it might surprise you to see just how much of our forest land is actually in private hands. Look at this. A huge chunk of the Sierra Cascades is owned by non-industrial landowners. That's you. When you add it all up, all those individual properties form a massive, critical part of the ecosystem. So your actions, taken together, can have a huge, landscape-level impact.
So, how do you take action in a way that works? Well, you start with a plan, a forest management plan. It's not some super complex document just for big-time loggers. Think of it more like your personal roadmap. It helps you figure out what you have, decide what you want to accomplish, and then it lays out the practical steps to get you there.
Okay, so the first part of any journey is knowing where you're starting from. So, let's talk about how to read your forest.
The handbook breaks this down into 3 really manageable steps. First, you'll want to map your stands. That's just a fancy word for areas that have similar types of trees. Then, take an inventory. What kinds of trees do you have? How big are they? Do they look healthy? And finally, you've got to identify the obvious threats.
And what are those common threats? Well, the big one is fire hazard. You need to look for what we call ladder fuels. That's all the shrubs and small trees that can carry a ground fire right up into the tops of the big trees. For insects, look for signs of bark beetles, like little reddish pitch tubes on the trunk. And just remember, the simple fact that it's overcrowded is a huge sign of drought stress all by itself.
All right, once you've gotten a handle on your land, it's time to act. Let's open up the landowner's toolkit.
There are really 3 main techniques. First is thinning. That's simply removing some of the smaller, extra trees to give the remaining ones some breathing room. Next, you got to treat all that woody debris. Whether you chip it, do a controlled pile burn, or just haul it away, the goal is to get rid of those ladder fuels. And finally, there's reforestation, which is all about actively planting the right trees to build a resilient forest for the future.
And that last point, reforestation, is just so important. As Dr. Robert Powers put it, proactive planting isn't just about fixing a problem. It's our best shot at having healthy, productive forests for years to come. It's really an act of hope and of foresight.
Now, when we talk about reforestation, you've basically got 2 options. On one hand, you can just rely on natural regeneration. It's free, which is great, but it can be really slow and unpredictable. On the other hand, you can actively plant seedlings yourself. Yeah, it costs more, but it gives you total control over what species you plant, the density, and you can even choose seedlings that are better adapted for a changing climate. Now, I know all of this might be sounding like a lot, but the most important thing to remember is that you are not alone on this journey. Not at all. There is a whole support team out there just waiting to help you. We're talking about organizations like CAL FIRE and the NRCS, that's the Natural Resources Conservation Service. They offer free technical advice.
The UC Cooperative Extension provides a ton of educational resources. And if you need to bring in the pros, registered professional foresters can help you develop and execute more complex plans.
And here is a game changer. You don't have to pay for all of this yourself. There are a bunch of state and federal cost-share programs like CFIP and EQIP, and they are specifically designed to help private landowners fund these exact kinds of projects.
The path to getting that help is actually pretty straightforward. You start with your plan. Even a simple draft using the worksheets from the handbook is a great start. Then, you reach out for technical help from your local CAL FIRE or NRCS office. From there, they can point you directly to the right funding programs for whatever your project is. It's a clear, step-by-step process. So, it all comes down to this. Your piece of the forest, it isn't an island. It's a vital part of a much bigger, interconnected ecosystem. The choices you make on your land ripple outwards, affecting watersheds, wildlife, and the resilience of the whole region. So the question is, what will your legacy be?